Hey everyone, this is the LEGO Ideas Dinosaur Fossils set. And what I'm going to do here is give you a quick review of everything that you get in the set, everything that you build up. Then I'll come back and spend a little more quality time on some of the specific details and also sharing my personal thoughts. First though, by way of disclaimer, I do want to let you know that I am not a paleontologist, nor do I pretend to be one on the internet. So, I'm going to be looking at these models from the perspective of someone who's a pretty serious fan of Lego, but at best, a very, very casual fan of dinos and other prehistoric animals. I'm going to start with the smallest, simplest model, the Pteranodon longiceps here, which technically was not a dinosaur at all. It was contemporary with many dinosaurs we know of, but you know what? I'm going to let that slide because I am not a paleontologist. I think this is a pretty cool looking little model. Let me show you what all you can do with this because it actually does have a fair amount of articulation. Each of these models comes with a stand, and this one has a long vertical section to make it look like it's standing up or in flight. You know, it's in the air off the ground. You can rotate this from side to side. You can angle it back and forth. You can angle the legs up and down, rotate the feet just a little bit. The neck has a good amount of articulation because there are ball joint. Well, there is a ball joint right there, so you can move that around, move it up and down. You can also turn the head up and down. You can open and close the beak there. You can flap the wings however you want them to be independently, and you can also change the angles of these little bits out here, the end fingers as they are. And that's pretty much it for this one. Take a look at what they did for that eye. That's my favorite part, just how they shaped up the eye for this design. And overall, it works out pretty well. I'm just going to give you a quick comparison. We'll come back to later, but against one of the pre-built Lego Pteranodon-like things that they've done previously. So you see that the bony model is a bit larger, but overall compatible in scale. Next up, Triceratops horridus. I'm going to keep putting that minifigure in frame just for the sake of scale, and we'll take a closer look at the minifig a little bit later on, as well as one little bonus one. Obviously a significantly larger, more complex build here. This one has a fairly large frill and kind of looks like a relatively young kind of design of skeleton, like it was a young adult at most when it was alive. Interestingly, this is very much built into its base. So the base has some serious thickness to it, and it has some Technic pieces that are connected very securely inside to keep this really in place. Nevertheless, you do still have some articulation here where you can move the head around a bit so it can go up and down. You can also rotate it, which is very useful. On this one, the jaw does not open. The tail is able to move around a bit. You have, sorry, wasn't supposed to do that. You do have some ball joints, so you can move it side to side. You can move this up and down, curl this around, bring this up a little bit if you want. Probably not the most realistic thing, but yeah, that's pretty much it for what you can do to move this around. Some of the bony bits can be changed in their pose just a little bit, but for the most part, this stuff here is pretty solid and it's very secure to its base. So you can pick this up, you can move it around and not worry about it falling apart. I think the least durable things on any of these models are the horns, these longer horns, which can sometimes fall out a little bit, but it's really not a big deal. Notice those are also used for the rib cage here, and later on we'll take a closer look at some of the interesting building techniques that were used for each of these models. And finally, here's the one that most people are most familiar with, T-Rex. This is a very interesting skeleton because it's built up very differently from anything that Lego has done before. The legs are similar in their build to what they did for the Triceratops to get this actually attached to the base. But look at this head. Look at all the openings that they have in it. That's actually pretty nice looking. And again, there is some articulation here. Not as much as it appears, though, because the head is fairly heavy. And so some of these joints are forced by gravity and forced by all the weight to just sit in their most downward position. You can adjust this one here to bring the head up, to bring the neck up a bit if you want, and you can also rotate the head around, which is nice for expressiveness. There's a lot of range there. You can open the jaw quite wide on this one. That is good to see. And then you have the little kind of useless arms, which can be articulated quite a bit with the ball joint at the shoulder and then hinge here. You can also move the little phalanges just a little bit, little fingers around. And beyond that, there is the tail, which has a bunch of hinge joints in it. You can bring this down, bring these up, curl it around a little bit in different ways, and then closer to the end, you get into some ball joints, which allow you to rotate these around. There are some parts, some sub-assemblies here that can fall off if you grab onto them. That's just something to be aware of. You know, they're not going to get lost too easily, but you probably want to grab this from the main structure of the upper part of the tail, and then you can pop it right off just like that. Come on, there we go. Turn this around, you know, curl it up in different ways. There's nothing really that you can do with the legs on this one because, again, they are structural members for this entire display. They hold it all up, which is pretty important, actually. So it's good that they did that. Again, that's the structure there is embedded into the base. The base of this one is actually not that large, but it works very effectively. And again, there's no concern, even though this is fairly small of a base, there's no concern of this model falling off or breaking off from that. Here's one other thing you could do. You can adjust these toes just ever so slightly, a bit, if it matters to you. You can just imagine this tapping a toe, you know, waiting for somebody to do something, waiting for me to finish this part of the review, I suppose. But yeah, there's your T-Rex, and let's look at some of the smaller things that also come in this set. So this is a thing, Lego Sapiens, the human minifig fossil display of sorts, little skeleton. This is great because it's just something to remind us that you don't have to take Lego super seriously. As a matter of fact, it's recommended that you don't, that you instead have some fun with it sometimes. Just do things because you can. And the Lego designer here did just that, and I like it. Here's an extant Lego Sapiens specimen.
Actually, JANG, it's pronounced extant.
With the dual molded legs and existing print for the torso there. Comes with a small bone piece and also a working magnifying glass. Always a nice little accessory to get because you can actually play with it, actually use it. Dark brown color for the hair, not the most common of hair pieces. No alternate face for this figure. And you do get a matching print for the back of the torso. Nothing too fancy here. And then here's a crate of stuff for your minifig. So I'll just dump all this stuff out so you can see what's inside. That's just a medium nougat colored crate there. And some stuff is trying to roll away. So that's just another small bone piece. There's also a single egg, supposed to represent a dinosaur egg, of course. A couple of tools. They actually give you a full set of tools, but officially you only use these two that represent a hammer and chisel. It's actually a screwdriver, but they're supposed to be archaic tools for archaeological work. Probably want to be a little careful with those. This is supposed to represent just a pen for taking notes. It's a black lipstick piece. Got to have a coffee mug because it is a Lego set, and you know, minifigures need their coffee always, or at least their coffee mugs. And then this is a book. You can open it up, and there is a little diagram showing some readings, some measurements, and some notes taken about a specific bone that was found in the field. And finally, here are the leftovers, or the extras for the set. Quite a few pieces here because, like I said, you do get a full Lego tool kit in this set, and you only use 2 of the tools, so you get a bunch of extra medium silver colored tools to use for whatever you like. And there are some nice little pieces in here that are pretty useful. You know, some extras of the special shaped tiles, bone pieces, horn or claw pieces, the black pneumatic T, an extra black lipstick, you know, piece and everything. So yeah, you know, small pieces, but some useful stuff here. As far as value is concerned, this is a 910-piece set for $60 US. And I cannot complain about that at all because once you actually put everything together, the volume of stuff that you get here is actually very impressive. It's a set that does have a lot of small pieces, a lot of 1x1s, a lot of 1x2s, modified plate type things, and tiles, modified tiles and such, but ultimately, once everything's actually built up, the scale is impressive. I think that the amount of stuff that you get here is very good compared to many other Lego sets that are available today. By the way, my apologies for showing you the Pteranodon comparison for a Lego pre-built dino and not the other two. Let me fix that right now. So here's the Triceratops compared to one of the two Triceratops that Lego has made in recent years, the larger ones. They made some smaller ones before as well. And here's a modern T-Rex comparison. So they've done a number of color schemes for this set of molds, and you can see there's a pretty significant difference in size. I do want to quickly address a couple of the major concerns that I've seen posted up by various Lego fans regarding this set. One major thing is the choice of color, the main choice of color. The original Ideas fan submission that was turned into this set featured fossils that were, or fossil casts that were rendered in tan. But those pictures were all digital images that featured a ton of pieces that didn't even exist in those colors, or that only existed in those colors for a short period of time. It would not have been at all feasible to make these all tan, and personally, I think they look good in mostly white. And they do have some tan in them, as well as some grays, and the poor Pteranodon over here does have just a little bit of blue, once again, sticking through just those darn Technic axle pins. It's not too bad in this case, at least. But yeah, I personally just have no issue with this, looking at them as the toys that they are. I think they are super realistic for Lego toys. I think the overall building techniques that were used here and the care that was given to be correct to the current status of what science believes to have been the shapes of these animals, I think is very admirable here. Stickers were used for these little plaques, and I don't think that's a problem at all either. I mean, they're just little plaques, and yeah, I personally just don't have a problem with that. The selection of animals used here is another thing that has been asked about and has been questioned quite a bit. The original Ideas submission had a wide variety of different animals, and on the original submission, T-Rex was not even included there. But later on, as part of the development of the Ideas project there, the original fan designer did add in a T-Rex because everybody likes T-Rex. You ask anybody to name a dinosaur quick, most people are going to name T-Rex first. Most people in the world. So it totally made sense to include T-Rex. I think it would have been a mistake to not include it. I think this is done just so well. I think that, again, just great respect was given to the science of it. One thing that I don't like, or at least one thing that I like the least here out of everything that I see in terms of how the individual bones were represented, is here on the head and the snout of the Triceratops. There's a huge open nasal cavity gap, and I don't know the scientific names for these things, but you just look at any pictures of them and there's a big gap right in there, and that is not depicted here, and that's too bad. They have just a small hole, but I feel like that needed to be larger if it was possible at all. Maybe it wasn't, but I feel like something could have been done there to open that up using some clear pieces or something. I don't know. The ocular cavities are good, but also I think this frill does look a little bit tall personally, but it's not too bad. These legs, they work really well to hold these models together, to hold them onto their bases. They definitely make them quite sturdy. It's impressive. I mean, if this had been made the way, no disrespect to the original fan designer, but if this had been made the way it was originally designed, with no change by, no redesign by the Lego designer, it would not have been that good of a Lego model, honestly. This is just on a different level of being able to put the thing together following instructions with success. We'll add in another exception to that. These ribs, oh, let me tell you, these ribs are annoying. They are so easy to offset. If you want them to be roughly evenly spaced, even close, you really need to have a gentle touch. I think there's actually something wrong with the mold for these long horn pieces. It might be an older mold or something, because they do fit fairly loose. Not super loose. I mean, they will hold their position, but it's more loose than I would like into a bar-shaped hole where they actually connect up. And as a result, you really do not want to grab the Triceratops or the T-Rex anywhere near the rib cage. For either of them, just pick them up by their bases, and you don't have to worry about anything. This is a good example right here. You can see how it's able to move just too easily. It's not popping out. It's not falling out. It just doesn't have that axial friction, unfortunately. And there are a couple spots where it gets a little more friction and then it gets loose again. So I don't like that. I think that they do need to fix that mold, just freshen it up, redo it a bit. So these definitely are not perfect. And those legs, they're not ideal in how they look. But I don't know. I think that the compromise there might be okay, just because of the strength that they provide. Coming over to this one, again, don't touch the ribs. Get them exactly where you want. Mine are not exactly where I want them right now, but get them where you want and never touch them again. You can pick up either of these larger models by the legs. No problem there. Again, great sturdiness there, or just focus on the base. This looks so good to me, though, just overall. I like this. I used to have some small dinosaur little wood-built, snapped-together, slotted, die-cut models from I bought at a museum gift store. My parents bought for me at a museum gift store, and this reminds me of those, but it's just so much better because it's so 3D. Oh yeah, notice that piece that's in there, the tan piece that the ribs are attached to, is the same piece that's used for the Triceratops. It's interesting. It's a part that's used for connecting horses to carriages, and they've just done it here in a tan color. I think they've done tan in the past, but long in the past, and it just gives you that nice subtle angle with a bar that's at a very subtle angle. It really fits in there and allows you to have the ribs attached in a line, but at that angle and not just straight across, and not having to use any additional adapters or spacers. So I think that's done pretty well. Now, the head on this one, notice this has all the spaces in there. It might not be 100% scientifically correct, but gosh, it's so good. Nice part usage, just nice three-dimensional shaping. I always hate to say when multiple models are included in a single set, I hate to say that the biggest one is my favorite, but here the biggest one is my favorite, not just because of its size, but because of how it looks overall and how some of the building techniques that were used for it. I think this is also pretty cool that there's so much weight here and yet it doesn't hang down. Yeah, it just works. My second favorite of these three is the little one, mostly because of the eyes. Just the parts that were used for those eyes is just perfect. Gets a nice look. Now this one could have had a little bit more in the way of openings up in the beak area a bit, but not too much. And there's some suggestion of shape in there by using the rounded 1x2 plate right there. And just overall, this thing, I like the little feet, the legs. I think they're pretty close to perfect length, and just the rendering of it there is so good. One other thing that I forgot to mention is you can actually rotate the wing bones as well, forward and back a bit to help with your posing. This is such a simple thing, but it's nicely done. I love when a small number of pieces turns into something that altogether feels right. I may have had the crest a little bit high earlier on. Maybe it should be a bit lower just in my demonstrations. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing else major that I wanted to talk about these models. I think they're significantly better than the original fan designs. Much appreciation to the original fan designer for getting this to be available at all. If anybody has any questions about or any concerns about the viability of this as a set, as a Lego product, store manager where at the Lego store where I bought this. I already mentioned that these are selling very, very quickly. They got a bunch of them in, and they're selling quickly. Fortunately, a lot of people like these, adults and kids alike. You may see, you always see a preponderance of negative comments on the internet because people tend to speak up when they have criticism to share. And a lot of that criticism is completely valid. But, take it for what it is. Don't assume that just because you see a lot of criticism that it means that the set itself is bad or is not going to sell. This is actually doing pretty well. And I personally think that it is a very good deal, and just overall, it just looks nice. I wish they would do more at this scale as well, to be able to extend this out, to expand this out. I think that it's a good thing that they didn't make this set larger by including additional animals in it. It would have been significantly more expensive, and that would not have been good. But as it is right now, it's a good package. I think that it's good that they just stopped right here and left it just like this. There's so many things that could have been done to change it, to make it bigger, to make it maybe more interesting, more detailed, change the scale up, recolor a bunch of pieces. But so many things I fear would just increase the price and push it out of the realm of purchasability for so many people. Just as it is, I think overall it's a good thing. It's not perfect, but it's pretty dang good, and I'm happy with it. If you want to see how all of these individual models went together, I've got the real-time build that I've done for the entire set, and I also have the speed build. Those two videos are up on their respective channels. You can check them out right now. You should be able to check them out right now. If they're not up as of the time of you watching this video, they will be up very soon. So look for those. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have any comments or questions about this set, and I'll talk to you again as soon as I can.